that has the big bail bond sign on it is the subject of this application. You can see that it's a three-story mixed-use building with the 3 bays across with regard to its fenestration, and the bottom portion, or the commercial portion, has been changed or altered over time. So with that said, I'm going to turn this over to you, Mr. Chairman, and we know we have our applicants and our professionals here prepared to give a report to the commission.
Thank you, Executive Director. At this time, I'd like to have the applicant step forward to be sworn in.
Do you require videos to be on? We do have this is Marcia Moore from the office of Post Pollock, 90 Broadway, Paterson. LLC is the applicant. Do you need our videos on? I know.
I don't believe we need the video on, as long as we have the presentation that you guys plan to present.
Okay, so at this time, I'd like to call our architect, Matthew Evans, forward, and he will be sworn in to give testimony.
Confirmed. Thank you very much.
Okay, Matt Evans here.
Mr. Evans, do you solemnly swear and affirm that the evidence or that you give today shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And the testimony as well, sir?
Yes.
Matthew, the floor is yours.
Okay, let me see if I can share the plans. Let me see if this is the one here.
I think John has to.
Okay, we're going. Basically, what we have here is a one-sheet submission. We are showing the first floor, second floor, third floor, and then in the rear, in the back, is a mezzanine over the third floor. We show the site plan, zoning data, zoning map, and the tax map location of the property. What we're proposing is an interior change of use from commercial. I guess it was a bail bonds and offices on the second and third floor, along with the mezzanine. We would be converting that to apartments. So the existing retail space on the first floor would remain. The storefront and the entrance to the upper floors would also remain at this time, and there'd be no changes to the commercial tenant space. We show the second floor. We have 2 apartments. We have in the front, we have a 1-bedroom apartment, which is 613 square feet. And you could see some of the demolition of the walls, the new walls, keeping the windows in the front. And the main stair in the center would remain. We have new mechanical systems for each tenant, and new bathrooms, kitchens, and the same goes for the rear apartment. That's also a 1-bedroom apartment in the back. The existing fire escape in the rear would remain, and we have basically similar layout for the third floor. We have a 1-bedroom in the front, and we have the 1-bedroom in the rear. The stairs would continue up to that small mezzanine area, and that we would be turning that into a studio apartment on the 4th floor. Basically, we didn't illustrate any elevations, but going by the HPC guidelines, the existing tenant sign would be removed, and a new application for signage would be proposed for the new tenant on the 1st floor. Also, in accordance with the review, we would clean up the facade, power wash, and that cornice and brickwork would remain intact as it was constructed originally. So I guess that's the presentation at this point, if there's any questions.
Thank you, Matthew. Does that conclude for now?
Yes.
Okay, so at this time, I'd like to invite our commissioners to ask the applicants questions about the testimony that was just given. Please raise your hand and the executive director will call upon you accordingly.
I see no questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, this is Rich. I'm trying to raise my hand, but it's not working. One question I have is the windows, are they going to remain as they are, the same structure?
Yeah, those are existing double hung windows. Those would remain. And if they were to be replaced, they would be replaced to match existing. I guess we would come before and get a review of replacement windows if that were the case.
Thank you.
Hi, Matthew. This is the chair. I just have a question about parking. Is that something that you factored into this proposal for, just for reference only?
Well, there's no parking for the existing property. It's a very small lot. And basically the requirement would be, I think it's 9 spaces according to the ordinance. We have no ability to park, but I guess any use that would occupy those floors would need parking to some extent, according to the calculations, according to parking for each use. So I think this is not really that intensive. There is a parking garage on Church and Broadway, and also parking down on Washington and Memorial. Then there's the county garage. I don't know the hours for that, but there's several areas in the neighborhood for parking.
Thank you. I see Joyce Corbell's hand.
Yes, thank you. Did you mention anything about the veneer where the storefront is now located? Are there any proposed changes to be made on that?
Well, what's there now, I mean, it depends on the tenant that would move in, because they would, I don't know if they would keep it or they would come up with, depending on the tenant, what they would need to do. And I guess we would, once they applied for a CO, they would need to come before HPC with signage and storefront modifications if that's the case.
Okay.
But
Okay,
if there's
thank
any recommendations, we would be open to that.
Yes, well, I think there will be, because there's some non-compliance with the type of veneer that's here. Thank you.
Hi, I see Vice Chair Rafael has a question.
Yes, and it's really maybe more of a comment maybe for later, but to Joyce's point about the signage, it is non-compliant, and I think that would be something to be included in terms of our review, but I'll save that for our commission comments.
Thanks, Vice Chair. Do we have any additional questions during this period?
This is the director. Ms. Moore, would you like to make any statements, or your client provide any testimony before we close out?
So I just wanted to, we did have an opportunity to review that memorandum of October 22nd, and as Mr. Evans indicated, we would be complying with design guidelines. I know that was one of the comments regarding removing the stucco storefront veneer, and we would have no opposition to the recommended comments or suggestions in your memorandum.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Moore.
And my client will not be, I believe we're relying on the testimony of Ms. Evans in our presentation.
This is Chair Tate. I have a question. I know that this is a planning review, so we won't get too deep into the details, but on the memorandum from the 22nd, number 6 on page 1 addresses the rolling gate. Do you know what type of commercial would be there, and did you intend to do like interior rolling gate for security purposes?
Who's that for me? Is that for me or for the question? I would say the gate that's there would remain until the new tenant came in, and what we would do is bring in a compliant gate. If the gate is not an internal gate, we would replace the gate with an internal gate in accordance with the HPC guidelines.
Confirmed. Thank you very much. Do we have any additional questions? I see Vice Chair Rafael's hand is up in the participants.
I think that's just up. I don't know how to take it down, so I apologize for that.
Okay. If we don't have any additional questions, I'd like to request the secretary to read the prepared statement of purpose.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Resolution number 2110 directs the Executive Director of the Historic Preservation Commission to prepare a memorandum containing the Commission's recommendations to the Planning Board and/or the Board of Adjustment regarding the property located at 90 Broadway, Paterson, New Jersey, Block 4402, Lot 3, situated within the designated Downtown Commercial Historic District.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion and second for the resolution?
So move.
Are we gonna have discussion on this before it's voted on?
Yes. Do we have a second to open it up to the floor?
Yeah.
Okay, so Secretary, I believe I heard Commissioner Garcia Leon for the motion,
Yes.
and then I heard Vice Chair Rafael for the second. Is that correct?
Confirmed, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Now the resolution is on the floor, and the floor is open for discussion. This is, I guess I can start. This is Vice Chair Tate. And overall, I think it's a pretty straightforward project. I think that it would, kind of clean up the current facade and, add some value to the area. I don't think that the application is invasive for what we're requiring. And based on the memorandum and the comments from the applicant, it appears that, they would be within our guidelines and they would come back for review accordingly based on, the details of what they're proposing. I see Commissioner Walters' hand is up.
Yes, I'd like to propose that we have the conditions that is outlined in this memorandum, the 1 through 6 conditions here to be added on to that.
Confirmed.
And I also want to make sure that number 6 is added onto that it's done as part of the view as part of this approval, not at the time that they get a tenant. It's done when the building is being done.
And I'm going to echo Rich Walters' comments because the one thing that I wanted to stress was, now is the time to, especially if the, owner will have the security gates, it would be the time to put the rolling gate on the interior of the building and not the exterior. And we've done this before with other applicants. I would also assume that there would be signage for the apartment, depending on how the storefront will be modified. So I know the memo talks about no exterior changes or modifications are proposed, but I think addressing windows and the storefront would be appropriate, and at least to recommend them in our memo.
Confirmed. Are there any other conditions or comments that you'd like to add during this portion? Just to kind of echo what the Vice Chair and Commissioner Walter was saying, when we should add in that any proposed signage should fall within the guidelines, just so that we're not, reinventing the wheel when this comes back around in the future.
Yeah, any work that's done on the exterior should fall within the guidelines, any work at all.
Confirmed. If we don't have any additional questions or comments, I'd like to announce the discussion period is closed. And regarding the conditions, as Commissioner Walter said, from the memorandum issued on October 22nd, the 6 design guidelines that were delineated, including the comments that were stated herein, shall be included in the conditions for the approval.
Chair Tate, may I make a comment, please?
Yes.
One thing that's not totally clear, because we're viewing the photographs in sort of a small scale, is that there's some duplicate signage on the building, and there's a blade sign suspended from the building on what is the viewer's right side of the building. And I know that Director Archimede is going to condition approval on removing that signage and also removing the abandoned fasteners for previous blade signs that were suspended from the building.
Confirmed. I think we should include those in our conditions along with the beautification.
Yeah, I think that is number 1 on the list of the 6 things.
Yes, I think they were in there as well.
Correct. I just wanted to emphasize that. Thank you, commissioners.
Confirmed. Thank you very much.
So can everyone see the photo bigger now? I've tried to, I wasn't sure how big you're seeing it, but I've blown it up a bit. Is this better?
Confirmed.
Okay, so some of the hardware that was left over from, ages past when different vertical signs were mounted, it seems pretty clear. Here on the left side, if you see my cursor, left edge of the building, there's some metal components that have been cut off that are sticking out, and there's some water staining here. I'm going to make an assumption that this staining may have simply been from an AC window conditioner, air conditioner that was in the window that was just dripping on the masonry for years and therefore staining it. So this is one of the items that, as an example of like cleaning up the facade, with an architectural wash or cleaner and some hand agitation. This is a vertical sign. It's very clear. The vertical sign is still mounted. It says bail bonds. We actually went through an application several years ago, either an application or a violation where we asked for one of these to be, or all of them to be removed because they're all really non-conforming. And then, of course, the appliance. I remember working with the tenant who was going to do the appliance, and I don't think he ever really started the business once he put the sign up. It all was a wash, and one of the conditions was that the bail bonds and so forth be removed. You can see that it wasn't at that time. So this is an example of all this signage would go as part of what was in the memorandum. This treatment on the commercial storefront area, this kind of flat, I don't know if it's stucco or what, but it seems likely that the existing rolling gate might be kind of buried behind it or within it. So we'll be able to get at that factor, when there's improvements made to the, when work starts on this facade. As Mr. Evans noted in his testimony, we're keeping these windows. If there is a desire, need to change them for maintenance purposes and what have you, then we'll review the proposed windows and make sure that they conform with the guidelines. The other point was a scrape and paint and examination of the tin cornice. This is the authentic cornice. This should clean up and paint up very well, and again, make with cleaning the building, this building will come into nice conformity and be more authentic with a little effort. So we appreciate the applicant's willingness to do this and to help us with our mission endeavors in the downtown commercial district. Everyone knows here at the commission that we have reviewed much larger buildings and the cornice and the brickwork, and these are all common requests for change of use where there's upstairs occupancy being switched over from prior office uses, and we've had good results, and each time we appreciate our owners coming forward to make these changes. Brings another building back into kind of the light, so to speak, in the downtown district. So again, with appreciation to the applicant who is on and listening to this meeting right now. So that kind of wraps up my comments. I just wanted to kind of put this all together. I have heard your comments for inclusion in the memorandum. It's part of this resolution, but I did not hear from any commissioners whether this should be supported or not. So should the memorandum recommend the commission's support of this application given the conditions?
This is the chair. I think that we should support this. I think it's a better use of the building than it currently is now and the state that it's currently in. Of course, the applicant would come back for a design review where we would probably, get into a little bit more of the detail. I mean, I think the memorandum covers most of it. One thing I would add in the future is if the windows are changed, they would, either come back to the board or they would be resolved internally with the executive director and staff. Just because sometimes, the design might change during the course of the project. As long as it's reviewed internally and it's confirmed that it's along with our guidelines and the energy efficiency, then I don't think there's any problem. That's what I like to say. See, Commissioner Walter, you have your hand raised.
Well, I'm in support of this. I think it'll greatly be a great benefit to the area there, and as long as the conditions are met, I think it's going to be a great project. Thank you.
I agree. I'm looking forward to seeing this building put back to its once beautiful state.
Any other comments or recommendations from the commissioners?
Roll call now, Will.
Are we clear? If there are no additional comments, I'd like to close down the discussion. And regarding the conditions, we will go with the memorandum 1 through 6, in addition to the commission's additions during this open discussion to be memorialized for our approval to move forward. In this regard, I'd like to ask the secretary for a roll call.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Garcia Leon.
Yes.
Commissioner Ahmed.
Yes.
Commissioner Corbo.
Yes.
Vice Chair Rafael.
Yes.
Commissioner Walter.
Yes.
Chair Tate.
Yes.
Motion carries.
At this time, I'd like to move down to item B under new business. This is by the same applicant. This is for 18 Church Street. This is a plan and review for adaptive reuse as a mixed-use building, 7 residential units. This will be presented again by the same applicant, Matthew Evans of Evans Architects, on behalf of the applicant. Can we bring the applicant forward to be sworn in? Oh, I'm sorry. Executive Director, do you have a report for this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you mentioned, these are it's the same applicant, different legal entities, different LLCs, but we have the attorney and Mr. Evans to make a presentation for a similar change of use application. This building is about a block south of the building we just reviewed at 90 Broadway. These are different buildings from the point of view of their time or their period. 18 Church Street appears to be a early 20th century building. It's sort of about just as wide but longer, and is situated on the corner of Church and Van Houten Streets. I wanted to point out to the commissioners that just next door to this building is the parking lot, and then the rest of the buildings along Van Houten Street down to the next corner of Washington Street that was previously approved by the commission and the planning board for conversion to mixed use and a demolition and a new large residential building to be constructed in the downtown district. So the application before you, I think, adds a lot of value to this block, which would bring the entire block along Van Houten Street on this side that you can see in the photo on screen into essentially mixed use. So this application, I believe, is a very positive application to bring forward, and would be consistent with other previous approvals that the commission has reviewed on this block. 18 Church Street has many similar characteristics as the building we just reviewed, or the item A on the agenda. As you can see here, there is a myriad of upstairs signage for bail bond and a corner commercial use for, in this case, a boutique, or we'd call a commercial tenant. There was also a commercial tenant to the rear of the building, kind of at the other opposite end. That used to be, I think, a lounge for a long time. I can't recall seeing it operating for many years, but nonetheless, these were several commercial spaces. The whole building was in previous commercial use. So we have some of the same conditions that we'll discuss, and the memorandum that was mentioned already a couple of times was also memorialized. Some of the recommendations that the staff has made for your consideration. These have been shared with the applicant as well. So without further ado, we'll conclude my report, and I'll tell you, Mr. Chairman, that the applicant and his professionals are here ready to provide the rest of the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Executive Director. At this time, I'd like to have our attorney swear in the applicant for their testimony on the previously mentioned application.
The applicant is Mr. Evan.
So just for the record, the applicant is 18 Church Paterson LLC. The testimony will be provided by our architect, Mr. Evans, but the applicant is the LLC. So Mr. Evans will be presenting the application.
Thank
Confirmed.
you. And Mr. Evans, although you've been previously sworn as to this project now, I would ask that you raise your right hand and solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Mr. Evans, the floor is yours.
Okay. Let me see if I can post this. Hold on.
I'll stop my sharing, Matt. Hold on. Okay.
Okay, so we have another one-sheet submission. Basically, we have the first floor, second floor, plans, proposed site plan, site location, zoning data, tax map, and we also, on this one, we have a right elevation, which would be the Van Houten side, which would have some alterations in conjunction with the work that we're proposing. Going to the first floor, the front space, which is an existing commercial tenant space, would remain. It's approximately 853 square feet. That would remain. There's another commercial tenant space in between that and the stairwell. We would be proposing, I think it was a barber shop or something at one time. That would be converted to a studio apartment. And then we have a one-bedroom apartment to the right side of the stair, and then we have the another studio apartment towards the end of the building or the rear of the building. All these units on the first floor would be handicap accessible, adaptable in accordance with code. And then the second floor, basically, it was offices broken up into railroad car offices. Now we're proposing the existing stair would remain. And as you get up the stairs, you're going to make a right to go to the one-bedroom apartment and the studio apartment to the rear. The studio apartment's 356 square feet, and the one-bedroom is 603 square feet. Going to the left side of the stair, or the front, we have a one-bedroom apartment, which is a larger one-bedroom open plan, and we have 810 square feet. And then towards the Church Street side, the front, we have a studio apartment in the front. We also have no existing windows and would remain along the entire perimeter. As you saw in the photographs, they're nice large windows, and they have a nice architectural character to them. And I believe that keeping those would definitely make the project more aesthetically pleasing, keeping it more in keeping with the HPC guidelines. Looking at the elevation, we have the windows above those would remain. They have transoms. There are 3 double hung windows, and those would remain. And the signage, which we don't show here, which would be, I believe it's either bronze or copper lettering, numbers and lettering, that would remain along with the brick. And then we would propose new egress windows to match the openings, existing openings in the first floor. And we have 2 new entrance doors for those 2 additional apartments. Now, the tavern or the bar that was there previously obviously is going to be removed, and we would have the ability to update the facade to be in keeping with what our new use will be. So we have large, as you can see, we have 10-foot ceilings on the first and second floor, and those are would remain open apartment plans. So we'd keep those ceilings high and open as part of this application. So that's basically what we're proposing. And then the other issues, as with the signage, the stickers, all the added signage would be removed. And then once a new tenant came in on the first floor, we would come before the board with a new facade, storefront, to be approved by the HPC board.
I have a question, Matt. Would that also include the number 18 Church Street? That's referenced on both the side, I think it's Van Houten, and as well as the front of the building?
Yeah, I mean, that would remain. That has to be really, it's going to take a little TLC to keep that intact. I don't know what the board's position is on that. I know that I probably would try and keep it as with that patina if possible, but it would be up to the board to see what your opinion would be on that.
Matthew, does that conclude your presentation?
Yes.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to open the floor for commissioners to ask the applicant questions about the testimony which was given. I see Commissioner Walters' hand.
Yes, Matt. I'm looking at the picture that was provided by John Franco, and I'm finding it a little hard to understand what was the bar area there. It looks like there's some kind of curved portico. Is that over an existing doorway?
Yeah, that curved portico that's for the second floor entry. That would remain. We would not be removing that. It's in fairly good shape, I believe. So it's an architectural. It's one of the original I believe it's original, and I would. We don't propose removing that.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Matt, this is the chair. So
Yeah.
you briefly mentioned the sign. I believe Ms. Marcia asked the question about the 18 Church Street sign. Do you plan to do any investigation of the condition of that? Because I think it's a pretty significant feature on this existing building.
Yeah, it's pretty stable as far as I can tell. I mean, it's just basically, has a patina to it at this time. It's, as I mentioned, it's either bronze or copper or brass, and I believe that it's, we'd definitely keep it intact and clean it most likely, but not. I don't think polishing it would really, I don't know if that would be something the board wants to address as far as how they want to see it and, as part of this project.
This is just Rich. I would like to see it not polished. I think the patina on it took years to develop, and I think it's become a part of the building now.
Confirmed. I like to echo the same sentiment. I think the weathering is kind of part of the history of that feature on the structure. Matt, so on the memorandum, it mentioned that you guys would remove the, I guess, the existing material on the front side of the building on the commercial level. Have you guys conducted any probes of that, like any concealed probes to see the condition of the masonry behind the clad material?
No, we didn't do anything in at this time, but I believe once if if this were to have some preliminary approval, we could do a little bit more once he gets his approval from this board and the planning board. We'd be able to get more information and submit updated plans based on those conditions, and we could work back and forth as far as what you'd like to see on that.
Thank you. And I have another question, a follow-up question. So in your elevation, on the right elevation, I noticed that the slope is pretty much straight if you go down to the elevation. But
Yeah.
in the elevation, I understand that it's a slightly sloped site from, I guess, from right to left. Do you plan to
Yes.
remove that curb that's by the existing, beneath the existing awning on the commercial side?
The curb.
It's right below the rolling gate windows. It's if you go to the far left where it says right elevation.
Yeah.
Yep, right there in real time, there's a curb that exists there. I'm just wondering, do you guys plan to remove that the way that you've drawn it?
The curb, like the sidewalk curb, or what curb? I don't
Is there any way
understand.
that we can look at a photo of that side
Yeah,
of the building?
I can stop sharing and then we can see if John Franco has that picture again.
Yep. It's on the memorandum on page 404. 404.
Does this photo help, Mr. Chairman?
No, one more back, John Franco. No, you were just there. You were just there.
This one here?
Right there, exactly. So you see that curb,
Oh, yeah.
that slow curb? I just want to clarify, you guys are removing that and bringing the brick all the way down to the concrete, or did you think about how you would integrate that condition in the new project?
Well, obviously the exterior gates have to be addressed, and the other pieces of this facade which have been, blocked out. The storefront's been changed, but I don't know structurally how we would address that curb, but I think the curb addresses the finished floor beyond that, but we would, we would look into that a little more once we get that, because that's going to be a new storefront. I believe that curb is structural, and the storefront or the finished floor sits on that curb there. So it might have been rebuilt to match the earlier curb, but I'm not absolutely sure.
Confirmed. Thank you. I see Commissioner Walters' hand is up.
Sorry about that. Still up from before.
Are there any further questions for the applicant? If not, I'd like to request the secretary to read the prepared resolution statement of purpose.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Resolution number 2021-11 directs the Executive Director of the Historic Preservation Commission to prepare a memorandum containing the Commission's recommendations to the Planning Board and/or the Board of Adjustment regarding the property located at 18 Church Street, Paterson, New Jersey, Block 4407, Lot 7, situated within the designated Downtown Commercial Historic District.
Thank you, Tim. I'd like to request a motion and second for the prepared resolution.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
I heard Vice Chair Rafael for the motion, and I heard Commissioner Corbo for the second. Is that confirmed?
Confirmed, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, the resolution is now on the floor, and the discussion is open. This is Chair Tate. I think it's a modest project. I think it adds life to that corner. As everyone knows, the neighborhood is developing swiftly, and going back to the Executive Director's initial report, I tend to believe that this is a positive modification to this neighborhood. I don't think that the proposal is invasive. Obviously, the applicant would come back with more details moving, into the next stage of this process. But I would, recommend this to move forward to the planning board. I see Commissioner Walters' hand.
Yeah, I basically agree. Basically, the same conditions as the last ones, the ones that are memorials in the memorandum. With those conditions, I think this is a great project and should move on. Even with the new doors being cut in it.
Thank you. One additional condition I would add is the Church Street signage, that we should preserve it if we can, the weathered sign above. I think it adds a lot of character and history to the building, and at the end of the day, this is an adaptive reuse. And I think that the merging of the historic nature of the facades that are on display, along with the kind of revived usage, ultimately adds value that I think would breathe life into that corner.
Chair and members, this is Marcia Moore, just for clarification. May I speak, if I may?
Confirmed.
Okay. So with your comment, resolution item number 10 on the memorandum as a condition, it says remove all signage and awnings. You wanted to say that will be modified to exclude the removal of the number 18 Church Street sign in both sides of the facade?
That is correct.
So noted, we have no objection on that.
Do we have any other comments from the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Yes.
For the applicant to remove the storefront veneer and to replace the brick facade around the corner unit, that will necessitate removal of the number 18 of the corner unit awning sign so that they can do that work to the facade, would be my understanding.
Right, but that would only be on the commercial level, if I understand this correctly. So that removal of the veneer would be, if we're looking at the screen, it would be where that awning is, the closet boutique, and then where the second floor hits, right below the sill. All of that would be removed, but the existing masonry above it, including the number 18 Church Street sign, would remain. And that would be power washed and cleaned accordingly. Is that correct from the applicant?
Matt, you want to answer that? I have no objection on the number 18 sign. I just want to confirm that's your understanding.
Yeah, those signs above the second floor would remain. The other signage that was added from tenants and other, mostly tenants there, those would be removed.
I
Confirmed.
misunderstood. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No problem. Thank you. Do we have any other questions from the commissioners or staff? I see Commissioner Corbo.
Yes, thank you. Did I understand the applicant to say when he was speaking about the Church Street storefront veneer, we have it in our condition under number 14 to expose the authentic building fabric, but did I understand him to say that would be looked at when the building was rented, when the new... In other words, do we want to make this condition for when it moves on with the application and the design review? As we said before in the other application, we didn't want to wait until it got rented. We wanted to see it done now.
Confirm. I think that's a good question. My understanding of it is when this thing moves into construction, all of that veneer, if you look at the photo, can you expose the front of that entire corner? My understanding is in the first phase of construction, they would remove all of that veneer and they would expose the brick down to the, existing masonry behind it. And then I guess they would come back in the future if there was another applicant who wanted to change up the sign according to their commercial usage. But in the primary construction, all of that, I guess you can call it like a brown gray. That brown gray veneer would be removed and extracted off the building, as well as the awning above, the salon awning above. Does that clarify your question, Commissioner Corbo? And that would happen before.
Yes, thank you. Okay.
Yep.
And the roller gates at the same time.
That would need to be confirmed by the applicant. Matthew, per Commissioner Walters' question, when you remove the veneer, does that also include the roller gates, or would that happen at another stage?
Well, we would remove the veneer and the gates. Basically, it would be part of that veneer. And when the new storefront would be installed, that would need interior gates, as was done in previous applications. So it would be an interior gate system, and any signage would not be any of these waterfall type signs. It would be signs that would be approved by the HPC Commission.
Right. So just for clarification, I think where we're a little bit confused here is, would the gates be removed during the same process and time frame as the veneer?
Well, the veneer you're talking about is this brown veneer around the gate you're talking about?
Right. So when you expose the masonry underneath that, are you also removing the gates to bring the windows back as well?
Well, I don't think there's no brick behind. I don't believe there's any brick behind that. That's just storefront that was either paneled up of some sort. So there's no brick in that corner space. Let me just see here. I know I looked at an old Google Street View, and it had another kind of storefront, but it didn't have any brick. I think it was just, there's a column at the corner, which you can't see within that storefront, and then it was wrapped, with typical storefront around the from that brick edge that you see on the right. That's where the storefront started, wrapped around Church Street, and ended at the left side of the front of the building. So it was, I'm sure it's been a few different either layers of facade or changes in the facade. So I don't believe there's any original structure within that, behind that wall there. So just the brick itself is really the last bit of facade that's left on that.
Yeah, so with that being said, if we go to the number 14 on the memorandum, when you remove the veneer material from the storefront corner, do you know what you would expect by exposing the material below the veneer? Or is that,
That's just wall. That's just a wall, like a curtain wall kind of material with either a panel, insulated panel, or some type of framed in opening there that they framed it. Then they put the panel on the outside, and then they put their storefront glass behind those rolling gates. So
okay, so we essentially see like the rough opening, you know, where the windows are, the curtain walls are.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions or comments from the commissioners?
I just want to comment on what was just been said. We will have no idea what's behind there until some investigation is done. It could be brick behind there. It could be an old-fashioned wooden storefront. It could have been just everything wiped out and you got nothing behind there at all. So we won't know that until they investigate. So I think we should leave it up to John Franco to make a decision at that point on what is to be done with that area.
Confirmed. I think that's a great recommendation. Do we have any other comments while the discussion is open on the floor?
Mr. Chairman, this is the director.
Yes.
We've experienced this condition in previous applications, even on larger buildings in the downtown. On screen, we have like the window openings are very large, and here this is this will end up being a corner room on the second floor that I'm showing on screen. I wonder if Ms. Moore could maybe comment to us about the possibility of a condition where the owner would fit into his lease agreements with tenants going forward, that the window treatments, tenants will want to put up curtains or some kind of privacy screens behind these large windows with the transoms, not only to block sunlight and so forth, but also to provide privacy. And we generally get a huge range of mixture of everything from plastic bags to garbage bags to sheets to all sorts of stuff that's hanging in these windows when people move in and start living there. So one thing we have discussed with other applicants is the way to control this and create a uniform look in a residential context is to either have the owner provide a standard window treatment on all of the units that becomes part of what is signed over to the tenant, and then needs to be returned upon vacancy in fair condition to be used by the next tenant with regard to, let's say, a universal indoor, we're talking about inside window treatments. This way, the views from the outside are consistent. After all the work is done on the outside of the building, these large bays left up to individual tenants can be problematic. So the other option would be to in the lease agreement to make sure that there is a standardization telling tenants, what they're going to use or be allowed to use in the windows. Now we can assist in the design review period in determining if the owner decides he wants to make that a tenant responsibility, what that should be and how it should appear in the lease, or if it's going to be an owner provided option, we can give guidance on that as well. But I just wanted to ask Ms. Moore if that sounds amenable, for those reasons. Really, it's really about trying to help control, light spilling out and to help tenants be uniform with regard to their privacy and controlling light coming into the building.
So I can comment on that. In representing the developer on other projects, it's always a uniform as far as any window treatment, so it's aesthetically pleasing. So we have no objection that would be an owner provided. So there are no sheets or garbage bags as far as the window treatments would be concerned. We have no objection to that.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Moore. So I would then, Mr. Chairman, recommend to the commission that you consider adding as a condition of approval this very topic about having the owner come to a conclusion during design review about uniform indoor window treatments for the apartments to be established. That's all. Thank you.
Confirmed. I think that was a great recommendation, especially with the scale of the windows and the exposure on the facade. Do we have any other comments, recommendations, or questions from the commissioners or staff?
None here, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt. I just need to hear from commissioners about their support of this application with the conditions. If that should also be what we transmit to the planning board. Thank you.
Well, you have my support.
I also support this project.
Same here.
It's consistent with the downtown and, revitalizing the downtown. We want to see buildings put back in use. So I too support this application.
I'd like to echo the commissioners and echo the same sentiment. I think it's a great project. Do we have anyone else like to?
Yes, I also support the project.
Do a roll call.
So, okay, so I guess we're clear. So with that being said, the conditions would be from the memorandum on October 22nd, 1 through 14, or I'm sorry, 8 through 14 for Church Street, in addition to the standardization of the window treatment on the interior, which we would discuss during our design review. If everyone agrees, I'd like to move forward and.
Yeah, I'd also like to add that we have John Franco investigate what's behind the stucco front and and he can approve or disapprove what they're going to do with that.
Confirmed. I think that's a great recommendation.
Yeah, just to clarify, Rich, that all can be done during design review. We can make that note, but their approval for planning needs to be gained before those investigations happen.
Great, and we give you no leeway now, and we just stick with number 11, remove all the gates, and number 14, remove the veneer. We'll just stick with them as they are then.
One last thing. I know this is kind of repetitive, but I just want to make sure that we include the condition about the number 18 Church Street sign, that we like to preserve it as much as possible on both facades.
Can I just have a clarification on item number 1, or is it just to remove the veneer material from Church Street? Because I guess the question or the comment is that we don't know if there's going to be any exposed building fabric or any brick after it's removed. So that's just one of the
Yes,
questions.
this is the director. I'd like to address that. The word veneer here is, I think, assuming that the brown colored covering that we see here, the sheathing, let's call it, is on top of existing, let's say, brick fabric. I think that's what some of the commissioners and some of this discussion was assuming, but I believe Mr. Evans' comments, and I also agree with Mr. Evans' assumptions that there probably is no brick underneath this siding. It's probably some sort of framing, but to Commissioner Walter's point, we don't really know what's under here until we do a little exploration. And I think the intent, though, is understood, and how it will be memorialized in the memorandum is that the expectations are that the commission is to remove this condition and then have a new condition installed that is consistent with the downtown guidelines that will be presented as a result of the of discussion and field meetings with Mr. Evans and myself and staff at HPC. I believe that's been the intention so far. So we may, in the writing, modify this this condition to not talk about veneer, but it will be to investigate and replace the existing storefront with a storefront that is consistent with the downtown guidelines as proposed in field after field investigations are completed. So that's part of the design review process when we're working on all the other conditions of the exterior. Does that make sense?
That clarifies it. I just wanted to make sure that if it was not knowing the condition, since it was unknown. Thanks for clarifying, Jennifer.
Yeah, since I'm writing the memo, that's how I'll intend to write it, to gather the spirit of the comments and with the understanding of the testimony that's been provided. I think that's all accurate. Thank you.
That's why I wanted you to be involved.
With those stated conditions, I think we've covered the design intent of the applicant as well as our intent for preserving the this edifice. With that being said, I'd like to ask the secretary for a roll call based on the conditions that were stated.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Garcia-Leon.
Yes.
Commissioner Ahmed.
Yes.
Commissioner Corbo.
Yes.
Vice Chair Rafael.
Yes.
Commissioner Walter.
Yes.
Chair Tate.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Marcia and team. And Executive Director will be in touch with you soon.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful eve.
You too.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to move forward or move backwards, depending on how you look at it, to item number 3 on our agenda, which is the approval of minutes for September 20th, 2021. They were recently sent over to the commission. Can I get a motion and second?
Motion to approve.
No.
I heard Commissioner Corbo for the motion. Was that Vice Chair Rafael for the second?
Second, yes.
Confirmed. Tim, did you record that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Roll call.
Yes, please.
Commissioner Garcia-Leon.
Yes.
Commissioner Ahmed.
Yes.
Commissioner Corbo.
Yes.
Vice Chair Rafael.
Yes.
Commissioner Walter.
Yes.
Chair Tate.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving along to item number 4, administrative matters. We'll start with A, committee assignments. Executive Director, do you want to start that conversation?
No, Mr. Chairman, that's for you.
Okay. I want to say to the commissioners, I'm going to reach out to each commissioner individually and go through the various committees. If you can email me your availability or just send me which committee you'd like to be a part of, then we could take it further from there. And I'll be in touch with the executive director and the vice chair as we compile the list moving into the fiscal year. Are there any questions regarding the committees? If there are no questions, then I'd like to move forward to B, which is the COVID-19 protocols. Executive Director?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the last meeting that we had, I believe I reported to everyone that the city had, administration had announced to the city employees that they should be prepared to document their vaccination status with regard to the workplace protocols that were going to be put in place as of the beginning of October. I believe the date was like October 7th. That all of that, people had to show that they had received vaccinations, or if they had not received vaccinations, they were mandated to submit to weekly testing to be turned in, showing that they were, tested negative to be able to continue to come to work for that week. So this would go on a weekly basis for those who are unvaccinated. That is the kind of nutshell of the protocols for the workplace in Paterson, starting in the city of Paterson, starting with the mayor's executive order for October 7th. That did not change the way that we've been doing business with the public with regard to the COVID-19 protocols that still remain in place with respect to trying to minimize public meetings with regard to our meetings with our applicants, and social distancing, and wearing your mask when you enter our buildings, city buildings. So those protocols are still in place. I wanted to provide that update. In addition, we had been discussing for several months to prepare to come back to in-person meetings, as our city council has already been doing. This month, like tonight, there actually is a budget hearings at the council chambers, so we were not able to come back to in-person meetings. However, I'd like to request the commission's agreement that we come back to our first in-person meeting beginning at our November meeting. I believe that's November 23rd. And then the December meeting, which is later, like kind of in the middle of December. So I've been announcing this and asking the commissioners to consider their comfort with coming back in. I'd also noted, or I'd like to restate that at the council chambers where we would be meeting, if you've had the opportunity to perhaps see a council meeting that's televised, you'll note that each of the places at the dais are separated by plexiglass. So each of the individual stations are separated from each other to protect from, of course, cross contamination from person to person. So there are those measures in place for all of you and coming back together. I don't believe this was a question that I think we may have discussed, and I wanted to give you a little insight onto it. I don't believe that there is a mandate for commissioners to demonstrate their vaccine status the same way as to the city employees who are sort of in the workplace every day. clearly the commissioners are not part of the workforce, so that would not apply to them, is the way that I understand the executive order. So this is really a matter of personal comfort, all of the controls I just mentioned. Commissioners could continue to wear masks indoors at their stations, et cetera, et cetera. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to request that we have a discussion about whether we should be preparing for an in-person meeting starting in November. I'm not sure that, in my opinion, I'm not sure this needs a vote, but if commissioners feel that this is something that should be voted on officially, by all means, a motion can be made, but that's something I believe we should discuss. That's my recommendation. So we can kind of decide how to organize our meeting for next month. I believe that our virtual meeting platform will continue to be available. I believe that our other boards are still meeting virtually, and there's no mandate on the horizon as to when that would be mandatory, for example. But for our comfort level in terms of doing our business and being able to work face to face with our applicants and with each other, we should discuss and consider coming back in person if people on the board feel comfortable doing so. So that concludes my report on COVID protocols, Mr. Chairman, with a recommendation that we have a discussion. And this might be, the time to do it on the agenda if that's something you choose to do.
Confirmed. I'd like to open up the floor to the commissioners based on the executive director's comments regarding the meetings in person. Do we have any questions, recommendations, comments? I do want to say I do believe we should possibly vote privately and send our votes to legal, just for everyone's comfort level to make sure we're all on the same page. Otherwise, are there any comments on the floor regarding? I see Commissioner Corbo's hand.
Yes, Chairman, thank you. I watch the council meetings and they're doing them in person. The Board of Adjustment is in person. The Planning Board is still doing virtual. I wouldn't be opposed. I would be okay with doing it in person. My question would be, would we then still be recorded or videoed?
This is the director. I don't believe that we would be recorded and broadcast. That is our normal operating protocol, is to not be under those conditions, and we are not required. The level of our board does not require broadcast or that level of public access. So whenever I'm sure you're aware that whenever there is recording happening or broadcast, it involves other personnel that need to be paid to be in the building. And for certain boards, because of the business that they do, it's required. For example, a stenographer is also required for the Planning and Board of Adjustment, as an example that is not required for HPC. So I do not believe we would be broadcast or recorded when we're in person, and that is our normal operating protocol.
Okay, I tried to put my hand up, my hand's up.
Thank you, John Franco. My mute button wasn't working right. Thank you.
Commissioner Walter?
Yeah, I missed something. Are we going to be required to wear masks in person? John Franco?
I believe the answer is yes, because that is the building protocol. So when you're speaking or at your station, you may be able to remove your mask, but I believe everyone would be expected to be wearing their mask for the majority of the meeting when they're not speaking, et cetera.
Okay, then I have a problem with the in-person because I cannot wear a mask for more than 15 minutes or so, and I start hyperventilating. I cannot wear the mask for any length of time.
Okay, so I'll look further into that particular requirement for you and to see if there a waiver can be made for those reasons. And I'll let you know offline in particular what we find out from what guidance we get from our office for administration, our health officers, et cetera.
Okay, but I would vote against having an in-person meeting if that's a requirement.
Thank you, Commissioner Walter. Thank you, Executive Director, for your answer to his question. Do we have any additional questions or comments or discussion regarding this matter?
Yeah, again, I just had a thought about Commissioner Walter's comment. I'll look into this and confirm it. Similar to our the workforce guidelines, those who are vaccinated may be exempt from mask wearing indoors. That doesn't necessarily apply to the public. However, I'll have to ask how commissioners in public meetings might, which option would apply. So for example, if a commissioner is vaccinated and provides proof of vaccination like the staff does, it may be easy to, or may already be in the protocol to be able to exempt a commissioner from wearing a mask simply by providing proof of vaccination, and we'll keep it on file and documented accordingly, similar to how we're doing with the workforce. So I'll get into the details a little more about that. I'm sorry I don't have those details for the discussion tonight. That's something that I perhaps should have thought of in advance of this item, because there are several nuances here with regard to this topic.
I see Commissioner Corbell's hand is up.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So then I was just wondering, are we going to still be taking a vote through legal, privately, with an email? Because we need to know soon if it's going to be virtual or live in person. So how are we going to proceed?
So may I jump in, Mr. Chairman?
Confirmed.
If it's your desire to have the a secret ballot done through our attorney, then Commissioner Corbell is absolutely correct in my opinion. We need to set a date, and the attorney needs to send an email to all the commissioners immediately. I need to send the information to the commissioners regarding the topics that I just discussed about, so everyone knows what the options are and requirements are, options and/or requirements. So that's clear. That will be followed by an email from the attorney asking everyone to pass along directly to the attorney what their decision is, whether they object to or whether they would agree to come back in person, and we would give a deadline. And if you fail to vote, then it'll go by majority. So like this silent. If you don't vote, we'll sort of ask the attorney to tally the votes that actually come in for what counts. That's how I would recommend we could proceed to answer Commissioner Corbell's question.
Thank you, Executive Director. And the other thing too is I know we have a couple of commissioners who are out tonight, so I would like to get everyone involved if possible. And I think kind of a remote voting process would be most beneficial for the entire commission. I see Commissioner Walter's hand is up.
Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting to put it down. Oh no, it says here it's down.
Executive Director, would next Monday be too close an event, or would that be too close to this meeting to set the date. That way, any research or reconnaissance that you need to do regarding the questions that were asked could be answered, and then we could, submit our votes from Monday via legal. Or we could maybe discuss this offline, or what do you think?
I agree with your suggestion. I think the matter of checking out and clarifying the answers to some of the questions tonight would be not difficult for us to do at the staff, at staff level, and then for me to email commissioners, definitely by the end of this week or in advance of that as much as possible, and then ask our attorney to reach out to commissioners and the commissioners to respond by, let's say, next Wednesday. It would not be good to wait longer than that, because we also will need to explore the need for re-advertising. For example, if there is a need for re-advertising the upcoming meetings to make sure that people know that they're in person. So, I'll explore that with the offline with our attorney, the necessity of that advertisement. But if we need to do that, we do need time in advance of our meeting to be able to publicize any changes. Our meeting for November is Monday, November 23rd. That's Thanksgiving week. And that would be just several days before, of course, the Thanksgiving break that we have. So we'll need a couple of weeks to make sure that the advertisement is entered and taken care of if that's something that we are required to do. So I don't think it should take much to ask the commissioners to respond within a couple of days of getting an email and considering the information that I can share with everyone, after the meeting, definitely by the end of this week. So that's what I would answer to your query, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions, recommendations, or comments regarding this item?
Oh, can I just say one more thing to John Franco? If I can wear a mask into the building, if when we sit, then if I'm allowed to take it off for the duration of the meeting and then put it on to leave the building, if that's a possibility to check out.
Yes, of course. I'll be asking a variety of those questions as well. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, if the recommendation that I made about the timing is satisfactory to you, then you can just ask me to carry that out, and we'll do it that way.
Confirmed. I think that was a great recommendation, and we'll look forward to your email with answers to the questions. And then I just want to repeat back to the commissioners. Everyone, make sure you vote. And anyone who doesn't vote, majority will supersede any personal preferences.
Mr. Chairman, one other item to mention on this subject on the agenda. I had posted to commissioners in the pre-meeting packet to please look at their schedules and consider if we might want to meet on December 13th instead of our scheduled meeting for December 20th. December 20th is Christmas week. We always end up with a meeting because of our regular meeting schedule of the third or fourth Mondays. We end up having a meeting right before Christmas break is upon us, or holiday break, I suppose I should call it. And in the past, we've do this on a case, sort of on an annual basis to consider, take into consideration if people have travel plans, or now that last year people weren't traveling for a holiday break because of COVID, but now maybe people are leaving town. So it might be a consideration. For example, that's the boat that I fall into. And I would prefer to have the meeting on December 13th, 1 week before December 20th, of which it's scheduled for right now. This is something we'd have to advertise in advance. And this is why I'm bringing this up at this meeting. If this is something that we could also kind of address tonight, that would be appreciated.
Confirmed. Yeah, I mean, I think we could take a vote tonight on it. And before we get into that, I see Commissioner Mohammed's hand is up.
Hey, quick question. So if we do meet in person starting from next month, let's say COVID starts increasing, are we allowed to bring the vote back to say that we go back to virtual meetings in like February, just in case if COVID rises and we start feeling unsafe?
I have no reason to believe that would not be that would be possible. Insofar as it just really following the city's the city is obviously monitoring what the governor's directives are on modified COVID protocols across the state, and is of course required to be in compliance with the governor's mandates. So as long as the city is providing the IT support for us to be virtual, I believe it would be, at the discretion of the board. The city council, as everyone knows, has gone back to in person, and one of our other, land use boards has done so. If things change with regard to COVID, they may also go back to virtual. So I think it applies to all of us. That's my take on it. I'll ask that question as well, Commissioner, and provide that in the email that I send out to people.
Thank you, Mohammed, for your question. Going back to the December 13th versus the 20th meeting, I personally think the 13th would be advantageous, just considering how hectic things are and it's the end of the year. Executive Director, how will we go about, should we take the vote? I mean, I think we could take a vote now. I know everyone's not here, but we do have a quorum, and
yes, I believe you could take the vote. I think I would recommend that you do take a vote actually to change a meeting date of the commission, so that this is a deviation from the regularly scheduled meeting dates that everyone voted to approve in July. So a deviation should have a vote, in my opinion.
Right.
This is Rich. I'd like to make a motion that we change the date of our December meeting to the 13th.
Do you have a second?
Seconded.
Tim, did you get that?
Confirmed, Mr. Chairman. Roll call.
Yes, please.
Commissioner Garcia Leon.
Yes.
Commissioner Ahmed. Commissioner Corbo.
Yes.
Vice Chair Rafael.
Yes.
Commissioner Walter.
Yes.
Chair Tate.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Executive Director, does that conclude administrative matters?
There's one more item that's not listed on the agenda that was brought to my attention today. Our attorney, Maite Guetta, is also with us, and I would like to ask if she has an announcement about our attorney services that she'd like to tell the commission about.
Good evening, commissioners. I just wanted to welcome Christina Salcedo. She is an attorney from the law department. She is new in our office. Actually, she's been with us for at least a month now, and we're very, very happy. And I'm happy to say that Ms. Salcedo will be, at some point, the attorney for the board. I think I'll sit in maybe for one or two more meetings, but I'm happy. I think that I juggle a bunch of things, and we're all trying to get acclimated, and we were in need of new attorneys, and we're very happy that Ms. Salcedo has joined us. And I think you'll all be very pleased to have her.
Thank you very much. Maita, for that, and welcome aboard, Christina. We look forward to working with you, and I think you're joining a great commission.
Thank you for that welcome.
All right. So now that we've concluded administrative matters, I'd like to move on to item 5, which is the committee reports. We'll start with, I guess, A, tours and events. January 19th, 2021, the awards dinner. Vice Chair Rafael?
Well, how are you? How's everyone? Okay, so for this report, I really just wanted to bring forward, as a reminder to the commission, the awardees that were presented. And this is going back to 2020 at a meeting. This was all selected by the committee and approved by the commission as a whole. So I would like to just go through that list with everyone, just as a refresher, if that's okay.
Confirmed.
Okay. So I don't have any images or anything like that to share with you this evening, but I'm going to go through just the general listing. So the first one was 180-184 Main Street. This was for a rehabilitation of a commercial building in the downtown. The second was 113-119 Van Houten Street, which is the former Paterson Fire Department headquarters. This was done by Passaic County Community College. So this too would be also a rehabilitation project in the downtown commercial historic district. The third was 303-311 East 37th Street. This was a rehabilitation of a residential building in the East Side Park Historic District. The fourth was 8-14 Morris Street. This was with Zev Spira for the rehabilitation of the school on Grand Street. And then the fifth one would be 33-41 Van Houten Street, which is the PSENG substation. So that was by the Public Service Electric and Gas Company, and that was the new construction. So those are the 5 projects that were recommended. Again, we submitted these at a June 2020 regular meeting and subsequently approved them. So I guess if everyone is okay with this list still, a year later, we can move forward. Or if there's any changes or comments, additions, we'll need to kind of wrap this up at our November meeting and start the letter process and advertising process.
Confirmed. Thank you very much, Vice Chair. Do we have any questions regarding the Tours and Events Committee report?
Just are all those buildings still good? I mean, any of them burned down? Any of them changed their facades or anything?
No, they're all good, Commissioner.
Okay, then I think we should approve them. I don't know. I guess we don't have to approve them. We already approved them.
Do we have any other questions? I see Commissioner Mohammed's hand is up. If we don't have any questions, I'd like to say thank you, Vice Chair, for your update on tours and events. And the awards dinner, I think, is going to be great. Thank you for the work that you are putting in to make this a magical night.
And I just want to add, I know that you mentioned that you're going to be reaching out to everyone about committee assignments. I know Joyce was on the committee with me, along with Maribel. and Mohammed. So at some point, depending on what the new committees are, I'll reach out to the group to continue with planning efforts for the upcoming months.
Excellent. With that being said, we'll move along to item number 6, old business and correspondence. Item A, Director report on activities at the historic sites. Can you provide us a report from 1 through 4, please?
Thank you. Sure, Mr. Chairman, I would like to do that. Starting with Great Falls National Historical Park, we've got a couple here that are listed that I've continued to update you on over time, and there are a couple that are not here. Like, for example, if you recall, last month we talked about the closure of the walking bridge over the chasm, and also going on to provide you with these important updates on Hinchliffe Stadium, Quarry Lawn, and others. Construction, of course, continues to move ahead at Hinchliffe Stadium. I've been attending construction meetings, as I told you about last month. Progress of the work continues along the superstructure of the building. There's been continued progress in the rehabilitation of the bleacher and seating area in the Horseshoe Bowl, and the extensive deterioration of concrete conditions in the portion of the stadium where underneath its hollow space or open space, what that is used for locker rooms, showers, team rooms, weight room, etc. So there continues to be ongoing work in that area. Also the facade along Maple Street, if you've gone by, you've noticed the coping has been removed, and there's been some continued work on the understanding the structural. So there's a couple of structural issues with the wall on Maple Street that and window openings are being looked at carefully to prepare those masonry openings for receiving the new windows. Really, the bathroom work continues to go on. The plumbing has been, sort of on its way or put in, and foundation walls for the new highest level of bleachers where the toilets are on either side of the horseshoe seating bowl are, again, actively underway. So there continues to be a lot going on there. One of the topics that we talked about last time was to have a commissioner meeting. I've cleared that. The commissioner walk around or commissioners are invited to come and join a sort of controlled construction tour to see the progress in person. It was decided to be a Friday, and the Friday that I'd like to propose would be the Friday during Election Day week. So if Election Day is on Tuesday, November 2nd, it will be the Friday right after that. So before, I think it's the 6th, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. So November 5th is the date I'm proposing to set up that meeting. I would like to mention that the commissioners we can't all be meeting to the point where we have a quorum. So some of you won't be able, I know some of you won't be able to make it. We can arrange another Friday, for example, even the next Friday, if the weather is good, to do a second tour, so that if we have a lot of desire by the commissioners to be on that tour, we can split it up into 2 different tours so that not everyone's together at the same time. This is how we avoid any problems we have with having a quorum without a public notice. So I'm going to put these dates out in an email to everyone and ask you to respond. And because of our issues with having to sort of reserve and make sure that there's an escort at the construction site, I will ask everyone to please make sure you respond on time. I'll provide the deadline for your response, and then I'll confirm again who's going on what day. I'm going to also propose that we try to meet like at lunch hour. We could get together and actually have lunch together at a there's a, if everyone remembers where Casa Rosa used to be on McBride Avenue, there's a new restaurant there. It's a Mexican restaurant. I would invite people to kind of meet there. Maybe we'll have lunch together and then go over to the site for a tour immediately thereafter. So it would be something between like noon and let's say 2 o'clock would be the window on Friday. The first Friday would be the week of election week, and then the week after, the next Friday, would be the second date. So I'll put that out in an email and ask for your responses as well. So that I wanted to kind of nail that one down with everyone tonight. We also have received a referral from the Planning Board for a subdivision application from the Passaic Valley Water Commission for lot number 3 in Mary Ellen Kramer Park, which is a piece of property that they own. This is easily identified by the property where the 2 small buildings are in Mary Ellen Kramer Park, right next to the Hitchliff Stadium construction site. Now, this subdivision is not unexpected. This application comes out of long discussions we've had over the past year for NPS land transfer with the Water Commission, knowing that we would be working on transferring lots at Mary Ellen Kramer Park next, meaning probably be working on this project during 2022 for the transfer of the lands at Mary Ellen Kramer Park. As you all know, we are currently on the cusp of asking our city council and presenting to our city council the transfer documents and an ordinance to consider transferring the lands at Overlook Park to the National Park Service as was agreed upon in the general agreement of 2011. So it's taken a while to make those negotiations and prepare those documents, and we're just about at the tail end of that and are ready to introduce it during November for the council's consideration. So that is news that I also wanted to share with you. If there are any questions about the land transfer that I haven't already talked with you about over a period of time, I'd be happy to answer them if you ask them tonight or another time. But the packet of information that will be made available to the council for workshop, I can easily also submit to the commission, kind of distribute it to the commission by email as well, so you can also have a look at those documents, because for all proper protocol, no one has seen the transfer documents. They've been under legal negotiation between the parties, under legal review. The legal review is about completed, and they're being obviously transmitted to council for consideration under the ordinance to transfer the land. So we want to make sure that the council receives that opportunity first and before anyone else does. So that's why I offered to make the transfer to you at the same time, because I know that you have an interest in this topic as well. So the subdivision for Mary Ellen Kramer Park application was submitted formally to the planning board, has been referred to us. I have had correspondence with the Water Commission recommending that we think about bringing the subdivision application as a planning review to the commission, together with a separate application for design review of the improvements to the 2 buildings that are on lot 3 that will be considered for subdivision. So we could do both applications in one meeting. And the Water Commission is aware now of the correspondence that I've sent and that we've discussed. I believe they are working with their professionals to complete those applications to bring bring these two matters to us for new business as soon as possibly our December meeting. So we're looking forward to seeing more from the Water Commission on those two applications. The other topic in the Great Falls National Historical Park is on item number 2, Quarry Lawn. The Quarry Lawn project is final changes and updates and modifications to the plans been completed by the design team. These are out to for approval at our Green Acres, who's one of our fiscal funders. And that's part of the requirement before bidding, that they need to look at the plan and give us an approval on several documents, including the final plan. So that's under review. We're in discussion internally at the administration about kind of finding a bid date. There's a grant for brownfield funding as part of this construction project that is still kind of underway. So we need to get a formal approval, bring that into the city's budget. There's still some moving parts that are underway. So Quarry Lawn, we're hoping to get to a bidding period by the end of this year. I know the date keeps kind of fading, like 1 month into the next, but these topics really do need to be managed before we're ready for being out in formal bidding. We are very close. We would expect starting in the winter months that the bidding would be happening, and hopefully the bids will come back construction as soon as possible. Probably in late, could be late winter, early spring, for example. The is a prerequisite for the other large project in the Great Falls District, the Visitor Center at Overlook Park, to commence. So the land must be National Park Service land and transferred to them prior to construction to start on, formally on NPS property on the Visitor Center. So that project is also getting into the same edges with regard to finalizing funding parameters. There's some additional funding that is being requested to make the package complete, and then design on the parking deck will begin, and then the construction work on the visitor center can begin after land transfer. So we're looking at the possibility of having both Quarry Lawn and the visitor center possibly in construction together, like at the same time, or overlapping, one starting and then one starting sort of soon after the other one. So it's going to be really intense and wonderful to see both of these projects under construction at the same time. It'll be, I think it'll be very dramatic for of a transformation, and new additions will suddenly, kind of come after the construction period is getting into about 6 months or 8 months into the construction period. Things will really start to change at our national park. Going back to the Levine Reservoir project, there was some activity with this project and correspondence. It was also reported by a news article recently. When, if any of you recall, the Passaic Valley Water Commission advised water users in our area to be under a water boil notice after Hurricane Ida created runoff to contaminate the New Street Reservoir. So the boil notice was lifted recently, and there was some discussion about when is Levine going to happen? So this would be an important factor to sort of helping to prevent this kind of incident from happening again. So we had already, prior to the news article that came out recently, have been writing and discussing with the Water Commission that when they're ready to make applications for planning and zoning to the city and to get permits for the project, those would be referred to historic preservation for design review, basically. So we're looking forward to that sort of local jurisdiction when the Water Commission is ready with their plans in final format to bring this forward to the HPC for HPC's comment and review. So that is another project to look forward to going into construction probably next year, and as soon as possible. And these would be representing the final approvals that would be needed locally for construction to commence. So we're looking forward at the commission to seeing the Living Reservoir come back after years of development, and we'll sort of lay out the whole story of the preservation requirements that were memorialized by the SHPO in coordination with stakeholders, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll do all that when we get to that meeting. I just wanted to report to you about that topic. Another project that we reviewed at the Preservation Commission for planning was a new residential building we call the Argus Ellison project down at the corner of Van Houten and Mill Streets, where there is currently a surface parking lot. It involves the tax credit rehabilitation of the Argus Mill and then the two smaller buildings for preservation, the Daniel Thompson and John Ryle houses right next to Argus Mill, and then the construction of parking and a new building. So that is intensifying now. The owners have received some of their much anticipated closing on financial approvals, and we have been intensely working with SHPO under Section 106 review to review the archaeological requirements for moving forward with construction, and also looking over the sort of exterior design of the finishes of the building. The SHPO has also kind of been meeting and commenting about the exterior finishes on the building. So that is underway, and we're also looking forward to getting through cultural reviews so that construction can begin very shortly. So they're poised for construction to begin on that project. That should be the first one to go into construction of all the ones I've just mentioned. I also am pleased to tell you that the State of New Jersey Green Acres program last week announced 2 additional grant awards to the city of Paterson, one for supplemental funding on Vista Park. This follows on the heels of a recent announcement that Land and Water Conservation Fund money, which is federal funding of $550,000, was awarded. This supplemental funding, another $250,000, makes sort of the match requirement for a previous grant award of $1 million by Green Acres for the Vista Park. So this announcement last week sort of represents a national and state funding commitment to the Vista State Park design and its first phase of construction in the amount of $1.75 million. So we're anticipating, in follow-up to the announcement, that the appropriations will be made and grant agreements put in place. All the administrative stuff will happen during the winter, and we will be in design, contracting for design A&E services as soon as early spring, late winter, early spring. That's where we're headed with Vista Park. So the green light is on for the design, and then followed up with construction on Vista Park. So in coordination with on the south side of the river, we have Quarry Lawn and Visitor Center that will probably start construction to basically together, or one shortly after the other, and then Vista will be in design and probably also get into construction somewhere along halfway through or later on when Quarry Lawn and Visitor Center are kind of underway or halfway through, then we will be ready for Vista to get under construction as well. So again, some very exciting times. The stadium, its new building and parking deck, which are under construction now, will also be kind of coming around the corner to being completed toward the end of 2022, I believe, is the deadline. So there's going to be tons and tons of great construction and infusion of new public lands and amenities for the development of the park in 2022. So all of this is really coming around. Another grant announcement that was made, I didn't mention yet, was $500,000 grant from the Urban Parks Initiative for the stabilization of the Colt Gun Mill. This is a much needed project, not only for the building itself, but also to help with stabilizing the building so that asbestos can be removed from the ATP site that has been identified several years ago by the EPA. We have a reuse planning effort for the ATP site that should be getting underway as well. While this project is also going into A&E or architecture and design. So there's, again, a ton of stuff happening with Quarry Lawn getting under construction, A&E services and stabilization of the gun mill, a reuse plan happening for the ATP site, Vista Park planning coming around as well. So it's going to be a very, very busy year for the Great Falls District in 2022. I'm just about, just about done with the Great Falls updates, and the next one I'd like to turn to is the Great Falls Historic District outside of the national park footprint. As everyone knows, we have Lou Costello Park improvements underway. They're really getting close to completing. They may even be complete before our next meeting, and I'll advise everyone about an opening ceremony that they'll have. Now, if everyone recalls, we HPC did review this park design and had a lot of input. I believe construction has been going very well with regard to the design conditions that were put forward by HPC for permits. I've been monitoring that. I've also been working with various groups like the Botto House and with the Lou Costello family to develop interpretive panels for the site. The interpretive panels are under development and won't be installed and ready for, let's say, the park opening, but we are already planning to do a separate opening and event announcement to invite the various parties to talk and give specific attention to the new panels. And I'll share the panels with you when we have them in their close to final format so that everyone can have a look, and I'm sure if there are any suggestions, we may be able to include them at that point. But this would be something that we might look at a meeting or even outside of a meeting as an informality, since I've been delegated the responsibility for handling it and have been doing so. So we can look forward to the announcement of the opening of Lou Costello Park soon in the Great Falls District. We also are looking at the new gym building at number 8 Morris Street. If you remember, we did a planning review for another gym building that's associated with the Grand Street School as opposed to the one that we just completed. So we've been involved in looking at that as well. And I'm waiting for architectural renderings after our design discussion that we had with the project team. So that's something that would be probably coming along during November with regard to getting approvals for them to kind of proceed with a certain design. So that's quite a lot to. We do have an application that we're reviewing administratively for number 59 Spruce Street. That is the corner public service building, the 1930s building where we approved the small murals to be painted at the corner of Oliver Street and Spruce. And the job there will be to replace all of the windows with appropriate sort of Pella wood windows, or wood-clad windows, I guess, is what they really are. And also the recommendation that was made by the commissioners for lighting on these areas would also be installed. So I know when some commissioners saw the murals, we were excited to see them. When we reviewed them, there was a recommendation made to light them, and that's something that should be paid for in this project as well. There also was an inquiry about an application that I informed the commission about, that the commission requested that I prepare a letter to the Board of Adjustment for an application for a property that was coming up for development on Maple Street. And this is a property that's right sort of behind the waterfall on Maple Street. And you may recall that the proposal was to build a mixed use or residential building to sort of take advantage of its position behind the falls. And the topic was about the interference with the view shed of the falls. So this application is coming around again soon. I can't provide a date, but I do know I'm in communication with the various boards to know when it's going to be rescheduled for a hearing. And I wanted to let the commissioners know that I've been working on another project that requires a park, a small park that is on 21st Avenue, to be closed for construction on Route 80. And rules will require the DOT, Department of Transportation, to identify alternative lands as sort of replacement land for that park that's going to be under construction for like 2 years. And so because of the construction project, the rules necessitate the establishment of sort of new recreational lands. And I am strategizing to try to have the land, this land on Maple Street, possibly identified as the replacement land that for DOT to consider purchasing. And so it would be, sort of recreational land and protected from, this development. Of course, this would necessitate a sale to happen between DOT and the current owner. So that I wanted to just give you an overview of this sort of strategy and effort to do that. In the meantime, the application would still be going forward, and I'll keep you all informed about what I can learn about the timing of the application. And I'm trying, of course, to move it, to move this idea ahead of the application coming to a hearing. So that concludes my reports on the Great Falls National Park and Great Falls Historic District projects. There's a ton of stuff going on, as you can tell. And now moving on to Eastside Park Historic District. We had reviewed and approved a county-funded project for pathways improvements at Eastside Park. This included striping for parking in the existing right-of-ways, directional signage, and all of this to improve pedestrian safety and further facilitate the flow of traffic and parking rules that could be enforced in the park. That project has been awarded and is underway. Just consulted on cobblestone choices for we need to get some additional cobblestone for path edging. And I'll be going up there this week. I have a meeting to go and check it out. I'll take some pictures and report back to you next week on that project. That project will probably be wrapping up soon, over the next 30 days or so as well. The Danforth Memorial Library project I've reported to you on is also moving along. It's still, we're still in design. We've received our cost estimates from cost estimating, and are getting more drone. There's a drone investigation of the cornice conditions that's being executed now, and we'll get some updates on those conditions and what's recommended for repairs. And this, this will all feed into sort of final construction documents for, bidding at the Danforth Library. This was, just to refresh everybody, this was a grant that was won by the city and by the Paterson Library from the State Library bond fund, where they're distributing throughout the state to worthy library projects to infuse some, new development and rehabilitation into the libraries across the state. So we have an award. It's a matching grant. The project value isn't very big. It's something around 1.5 million, and the scope of work was to replace the roof, to do work along the cornice line, update interior fire code and ADA access, including some additional improvements to the children's room and sort of in the lower level of the library. That's kind of the scope of work. That's been reviewed by SHPO and approved. So we're like to finish the design portion and then get into construction with that as well. We're also talking about another project for the library that is about the regrouting of the front of the main steps, the installation of railings, hand railings in an appropriate way, and a method for trying to gate the area that's behind the main massive columns to prevent folks from sleeping and putting trash and urinating and so forth in that space. That's sort of a private space behind the columns of the building on the facade. And that's an issue that's been an ongoing issue for a while. And we're now looking at, that's going to be another sort of small project that we're looking into doing for the library. We'll be bringing through a committee modified sort of draft guidelines for the Great Falls District to the commission through a committee assigned by the chairman, and then eventually to the commission. This is exciting news. It's something we've been waiting for a couple of years, and the drafts are now starting to come in, and they need to be administratively reviewed and then handed over to a committee to bring back to the commission. So we also I would like to report on historic sites. We had a dedication ceremony for the Freedom Bell at the Underground Railroad site on Broadway last week. It was a beautiful day. It was very well attended. It was a very nice ceremony that, if you recall, Jimmy Richardson's idea of bringing the bell that was first at Overlook Park to reinstall it as the Freedom Bell over at the site. So that was something that happened, and we are continuing to work on rehabilitating the stanchions of the bell, or the metal parts of it, basically, and to make it as a permanent installation. Because right now we have an appropriate pedestal that is basically concrete with brick around it. That is very pleasing and straightforward to hold the bell, and we need to now work on the bell itself and then drill it down and permanently mount it in that location. I'm sorry I don't have a picture ready this evening to share with you, but I do have pictures, and I meant to show them. I meant to bring them to show them tonight, but we can follow up with you and give you another update next month on our progress on that project. So again, as usual, there's plenty going on, and that's the overview of the various detailed projects in the different areas of our historic areas in the city. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report under number 6, old business and correspondence.
Thank you very much, Executive Director. I'd like to see if anyone from the commission has any questions based on the report from the Executive Director. Before any questions, I just want to say thank you for that very comprehensive report. A lot of areas under construction right now. Oftentimes we we go through these meetings and then, you have to play the waiting game to kind of wait for things to settle in. So it's good to hear, what's going on. I have a quick question for you, Executive Director. At the Lou Costello Memorial Park, the playground, did they consider the color scheme that we agreed upon? Is that underway or?
Yes, that was passed on to the team, the design team, and passed on to the contractor. And it was option number 2, if everyone remembers, that the commission favored most, and that's what's being installed.
Fantastic. Okay.
I believe right now the equipment, they put in the equipment first, and then they, as a very last item, like one of the last items they'll do is put in that surface so it's very fresh and it doesn't get damaged, because it's a continuous spongy surface. Everyone has probably seen it sometime before, and it's something that you want to put down at the end. So I believe that the material has actually arrived and is on site, but it won't be installed till toward the end. The lighting is not installed yet either. They're still doing concrete work. All of the sidewalks and lighting around the perimeter of the park is being replaced, and they're probably halfway done with that now.
Exciting news. Before we move on to public portion, I see Commissioner Corbell's hand is up.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Director, for the update. There really is a lot going on, and I'm looking forward to the tour of Hinchliffe with a small group. At the last meeting, we also talked about a possible tour of Lambert, and I wondered if they're still interested in that and if that's still in the works.
Thank you, Commissioner. That is something that needs to be coordinated by Vice Chair Rafael. She's the manager of that project, and it would be best to, for her to correspond maybe with me, and then I'll correspond with all of you about, a possible date. But I'm sure that we can make that a priority so that, maybe we can even work it out if it seems to be a good plan that while people come out for Hinchliffe Stadium, we might be able to go right over to Lambert, for example, for a tour, and we can offer it like the same day, 2 times, as I mentioned before, 2 Fridays, and maybe that would be a good way of everyone. If they're if you're coming out, we could do both sites, maybe spend an hour at each site, for example, and then if you want to join for an hour for lunch, it would be sort of an afternoon, like 3 hours in the afternoon. To do all of that. That would be my recommendation. What do you think of that, Commissioner?
I have no problem giving a tour for the commissioners. I'm even open to a weekend, at least when the site isn't entirely active for the castle. And I do know that the architects of record who happen to be on both projects would be willing to be there for the tour as well for the commissioners.
So it might be best if we work on getting some actual dates and then floating those dates through email to the commissioners, and then again giving everyone a deadline to respond as to their availability and when they can make it. Maybe we'll give them a couple of dates to choose from and see which one is best, for example. More to come on that, Commissioner Corbo. We'll follow up with that by the end of this week. I think we should be able to follow up with an email on that topic.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so if there are no questions for the Executive Director, I'd like to move forward to item 8 on our agenda, the public portion. Can we get a motion in a second?
Moved.
Second.
Okay, so I heard Vice Chair Rafael for the motion. And then I heard Commissioner Corbo for the second. Or was that Commissioner Garcia Leon for the motion?
Yes, that was me, yes.
Okay, confirmed. Secretary, did you record that? We have Commissioner Garcia Leon for the motion and then Commissioner Corbo for the second.
Confirmed, Mr. Chairman. Roll call.
Yes, please.
Commissioner Garcia Leon.
Yes.
Commissioner Ahmed.
Yes.
Commissioner Corbo.
Yes.
Vice Chair Rafael. Vice Chair Rafael. Commissioner Walter.
Yes.
Chair
Yes.
Chase. Yes. Motion carries.
Okay, Secretary, can you open up the lines for the public? We'll give them 5 minutes after you distribute the number.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Those who would like to participate in the public portion can call in at 973-321-1579 and enter meeting ID 711-680-001. Again, those who would like to participate in the public portion can call in at 973-321-1579 and enter meeting ID 711-680-001.
Thank you, Secretary. The time is now 9:04 and the line will be closed at 9:09.
Oh, they're saying goodbye. They're gonna get a divorce. Really coming down. Still waiting for public portion.
Someone's not on mute.
Mr. Chairman, IT has not indicated that there are any callers in the queue.
Thank you very much, Secretary. Time is now 9:09. Can we get a motion to close public portion in a second?
I guess nobody else. I'll make it. It's Rich.
Commissioner Walter with the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second. It's Joyce.
We have Commissioner Corbo. Did you record that, Secretary?
Confirmed, Mr. Chairman.
Can we get a roll call?
Commissioner Garcia Leon.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ahmed. Commissioner Ahmed.
Yes.
Commissioner Corbo.
Yes.
Vice Chair Rafael. Vice Chair. Commissioner Walter.
Yes.
Chair Tate.
Yes.
I did not hear Commissioner Rafael. I'm assuming something's wrong with her connection.
Yeah, it looks like she's dropped off the list, so you might as well just proceed.
Understood. Motion carries, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Before we motion to adjourn, I just want to say thank you to the commissioners, the HPC staff. Thank you, Christina. Welcome aboard to our team. We look forward to working with you. Everyone, keep up the good work. And I just wanted to say that. And with that being said, I'd like to motion. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Can we get a roll call?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Garcia Leon.
Yes, and I'm sorry, I'm having problems with the communication now. Yes. Good night.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ahmed. Commissioner Corbo.
Yes, good night all.
Vice Chair Raffel, Commissioner Walter,
Yes, good night.
Chair Tate,
Yes.
motion carries.
Before we adjourn, I'd be remiss without saying, Maita, it was fantastic working with you during your tenure with the commission.
Thank you so much, Chair. Greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. With that being said, I'd like to say good night, and I'd like to adjourn the meeting at 9:13 p.m.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.